We're on Shabbat Perek Gimel, Mishnah Hey, the fifth Mishnah in the third chapter of Masechet Shabbat. Now our Mishnah turns to a very interesting and very important halacha of cooking with liquids, i.e., let's say I have a pot, and I took the pot off the stove. So as we're going to see, this is called the Kli Rishon. It's on the stove, and then I take it off the stove. It's a Kli Rishon, Shelo ala Eish. It's still a Kli Rishon. And we learned in previous Mishnayot, well, I have a chart for you, but we learned before, Toldo Ta'or, i.e., something that was heated by a fire, is Asur D'Oraita. If you cook in it, then it's Bishul D'Oraita. So if I, let's say example, take my soup off the fire, and I add uncooked pepper to the soup, I was mevashel, I cooked Isur D'Oraita. And that's the topic of our Mishnah. So our Mishnah is going to talk about different kelim, as we're going to see very soon. Let me just move myself to this. We'll go to the other side today. Okay? Because we need the whole chart. Okay, says the Mishnah. Actually, this is not so good. Here we go. Hamecham shepinahu. If I have a mecham, i.e. a kumkum, okay, they're called the kumkum nechoshe. In their times, the mecham was a kettle. Nobody uses those anymore, real kettles, but if you had one. Lo yitein l'tochot sonein b'shvil sheyichamu. I have cold water, and I took hot water, and I took it off the fire. So what I want to do is I say, well, I want to add water and pour it in. I have a little cold water, and that way I'll have more warm water. Mishnah says you cannot add cold water into the mecham in order to warm them up, because that's bishul. Okay? That's, Bartudera says, Habe leikim b'vashel b'shabbat. Because that's cooking. Aval, but, noten hu letocho, o letocha kos, kadei lahafshiran. Okay, this is a little bit complicated, but we're going to see what the Bartudera says. We'll explain it, each word. Aval noten letocho, but you can put into the mecham. What can you put in? Mayim merubim. You can put a lot of water into the mecham now. Ad sheyashuvu hakol poshrim, until everything cools off. I.e., this mecham it's got hot water in it. So I can't put in a little to cook the water, but I can put in a lot if I just want cool water or, lukewarm water. Or letocha kos, or I can put it in a cup. Okay, so let's say I took the water and then I poured it into a cup, the Bartudera says. So now I have the water in a cup. Similarly, I could put in water, letocha kos, kadei lahafshiram, in order to cool off, in order to make lukewarm water in the cup. Okay, but davka lahafshiram mutar, and that's only to cool them off. Avum uatim kadei sheyechamu lo. If I pour the water into a second cup, and then I want to add in a tiny bit of water to warm up the tiny bit of water, you're not allowed to do that. Why? We're going to get to this, but this Tana holds klisheni is mevashel, that if I take water, I took my pot, I can keep this backwards here. I took water in my pot, and then I poured it into another cup, and now this is hot water. This Tana holds, we're not going to pass on this way, but this Tana holds that I can't add a small amount of water in order to warm up, because he holds klisheni is mevashel. But we say, halacha de klisheni eno mevashel. The halacha is the klisheni does not cook. Okay, so that's the position of this Tana. Let's continue in the Mishnah. Now we get to the guts of what's going on the issues of Kli Rishon, Kli, and Kli Sheni. Ha-ilfas v'ha-kedera. Ilfas and kedera. Ilfas and kedera those are the main types of, like, an ilfas was like a small like skittle, skittle? Whatever. It's like a pan like this, a little bit more narrow and wider, where you'd cook it, you'd cook chicken in it or something. Okay, and a kedera is a cholent pot. This is a kedera. Okay, so in our context, I'm gonna move me over here, so hopefully you can see. So you have ilfas and a kedera on the eish. So for our purposes, this is the ilfas. Says the Mishnah. Ha ilfas v'kedera sheheviran mirutachin. You took it off the fire, and they're boiling. Lo yitein l'tochot tavlin. You may not put into it spices. You can't put spices into it. Let's go to here. So this is called Kli Rishon, and I made you a little stove. Kli Rishon al ha'esh. If I take it off, it's not on the fire anymore, but it's still Kli Rishon. This is still considered Kli Rishon. It is mevashel. It's Kli Rishon shelo al ha'esh. So the ilfas, if I took the ilfas off the fire, I may not put pepper or spices or onions or whatever into it. Why? Because that's mevashel. Lo yitein l'tocho. But the Mishnah says, Aval notenu letocha ke'ara or letocha tamchoy. But I can put it in the ke'ara or the tamchoy. What is the ke'ara and the tamchoy? The ke'ara is a kli sheni, and a tamchoy is like a ke'ara gdola. What's a tamchoy is kemin ke'ara gdola sheme'ara kol ha'ilfas letocha. Okay, you pour the entire ilfas, you pour the entire pot into it. So I made you, it's a soup tureen. The tamchoy, okay, the ki'ara is the soup tureen, the tamchoy is a bowl. Either way, if I poured from the ilfas, from the main pot into the bowl, or I poured from the ilfas into the tamchoy, into the soup tureen, and from there I take it to the table, and people do this. So now either one of these is a kli sheni. And the Mishnah is saying, we paskin, and this Tana holds, kli sheni eino mevashel, and therefore I can put pepper into my tamchoy, and it's not considered bishul. Why? Because kli sheni eino mevashel, and that's how we pass. That's not actually. That's how we pass it. We pass it. Kli sheni is not mevashel, but halachically, just so you know, tavlin spices are considered possibly kalei abishul. We'll come to kalei abishul much later. Well, not so much later, but halachically we don't put spices into a kli sheni either. Okay, but according to the Taina of the Mishnah, something that's not kalei abishul, that let's say I don't know, something that it's hard to know what kalei abishul is and what's not. Kalei abishul, we're going to see, are things that cook easily. Nonetheless, the halacha is kli sheni eino mevashel. Therefore, notenhu letocha ke'ara or letocha tamchoy. Rabbi Yehuda says, lakolu noten. You could put lakolu noten. You can put. Let me just make sure I got this right. Okay, you could put anything into even a kli bishon. Wow, you can put food into even a kli bishon. Chutz midavar sheyesh bo chometz vatzir. Unless it's something that has chometz, it's vinegar. Tzir is brine from fish. Okay, and Rabbi Yehuda said you can put spices even in the ilfas and the kedeira, even in the kli bishon. Rabbi Yehuda said we don't paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. So let's just review. We have kli bishon was on the fire, it cooks. Kli bishon not on the fire also cooks. So you can't put any food into that. Then if you put it into a kli sheni, a ka'ara or tamchoy, okay, then that according to halachically, according to the Mishnah, kli sheni is not mevashel. We are machmir, just points out, you know that there's such a thing as kli sheni, you've heard of it. So we are machmir for kalei habishul, things that we don't know which things cook too easily. So therefore we say, we put things in a kli shlishi. If you put it in a third kli, everyone holds, at least according to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, we paskin, most people paskin this way, kli shlishi is not mevashel. Alright, we'll stop here. That's obviously just a very brief overview of these halachot. If you want to know what to do, ask your local Orthodox rabbi. We'll dedicate the learning of this Mishnah to the memory of my father, Rav Simcha ben Yitzchak Kalman. Let me see if I can make my way all the way up there. And if you have any comments or questions, as always, email me at arspoter@gmail.com. Have a good day.